Hey, welcome to Talk It Over. I'm so thankful to have this opportunity to spend some time with you, digging deeper into the scripture that we have discussed on Sunday morning. Now, this message is the second message in the series where we first talked about how everybody has a power that is beyond themselves and not everybody taps into that potential and opportunity. And so now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the story of David. And the thing that I'd like us to think about right now is another truism, that everyone has a battle or challenge ahead of them. I'd say there's no one in this world for whom all the battles are behind them. Every single person, there's another battle, there's another challenge, and it's going to take everything you got. Now, the question for you today is this: what is the obvious battle or challenge that is ahead of you? Now, as you do this, if it's your first time, the way this works is you pause it after I ask a question, and you either discuss these questions in your group, or you can use it for guided self-guided reflection and journaling. So you take a little journal, write down your answers, and then unpause to hear more, and then to read your own scriptures, mark in it, and then resume the video as we go along. All right. So the first scripture I want you to look at is 1 Samuel 17, chapter 17, verse 32 through 37. Read that, pause the video, and then come right back, and we'll talk about it. Okay. The basic theme that I pull out of this scripture, and it's one, every scripture has 1,000 themes, is this simple idea that we should remember God who brought us this far. Why? Because God will do it again. Now look at how that happens inside of the scripture with David. When David remembers, hey, you know what? God helped me fight the lions. God helped me fight the bears. God helped me overcome. And now he's saying, you know what? God is going to do it again. Embody that same spirit that David has in your own life. Now, here's the question I have for you right now. Can you remember an example of how God has rescued you in the past? Take some time, share that example with other people, or journal it, and we'll get back into this again. Okay, now I want you to read 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 38 through 40. Take a moment, read it, underline, and read it carefully, and see what God's saying to you. Okay, what I pulled out of this is that, secondly, we should go with what we know. Be who God has made you to be, and this is going to bring the greatest victories. Look at what David did. He was asked to wear the armor of King Saul, but he said, I don't know how to do this. I haven't been trained in this way. I'm not prepared. I'm not ready. That's the reason. A lot of people said the reason that he wasn't wearing the armor is because it was too heavy for him. That's nowhere in Scripture. It just says that he wasn't prepared in that way. I love also, by the way, side note, David was bold enough, courageous enough to know what he knew what he didn't know, and he shared with the king what he didn't know. So think about that in your own life. The question for you is this: what are some of the strengths that God has given you? That sounds like an easy question, but I've always found that people have a little of a hard time answering that. So try to unpack the strengths that God's given you, and then answer this: how might you better use these in the challenges that you face in the future? Because maybe you are wearing someone else's armor. Maybe you are engaging in battle in a way that you're not equipped to do so. And instead, you need to lean on like David did. David was a slinger. He was a guy he used the sling, and he could sling stones, and that's how he knew how to fight. He didn't know how to use a sword. Okay, now I want you to read the scripture from 1 Samuel chapter 17, 41 through 51. Okay, this is the meat for me of this passage as you kind of are digging into this question of the higher power. The third thing that we can learn, I think, is that we should make sure that everyone knows that God, the higher power, is the real hero. Look how David does that. He doesn't say, hey, you know what? I'm going to win this battle. I'm going to make this possible. He says, look what God is going to do. Look at what God is able to do. And then he goes into the battle. The question for you in your life is how you can do that too. What are some ways that you could do better at giving credit to God? I know that you may give credit, and that's true, but are there some other ways, some more creative ways that you could give credit to God? Think about that. Write it down, share it with friends, and then we'll read the last scripture. Okay, the final scripture is 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 55 through 57. Read that, underline it, spend some time in the Word. Okay, this is the last point for today. And the fourth thing is that every giant you conquer will begin a new adventure. Interesting that David conquered the bear. He conquered the lion, as he said in his speech to the king. And those opened the doors and prepared him to conquer Goliath. But this wasn't the end of his battles. He had much bigger and even more bigger challenges in the future. So David's battles kept opening the doors. The victories, even the failures, kept opening the doors to new challenges and new adventures. Question for you, last question for today. What strengths have you gained from the challenges of the past? Okay? What strengths have you gained from those challenges? And secondly, what doors have been opened as a result? Answer that, and then we'll finish up. Great. I love spending this time unpacking the scripture with you. This Higher Power series is an amazing opportunity for us to walk through scripture and really ask ourselves, are we tapping into a higher power, or are we walking around by our own power, entering into challenges and battles by our own power? This is really important, because if we can master the humble art of walking forward, not by our own power, not just by our own power, but leaning into the power of God, we will discover that there is a limitless opportunity, limitless potential for what God can do in our life. Otherwise, boy, we're going to be so limited. So my encouragement for you is dig deeper into this series, spend time in the book of 1 Samuel. You can spend all day in there and learn so much, and get ready for the next message next week. It's going to be even better. All right, God bless. And if there's anything you need, any way that we can help, we will always do everything in our power to help you or help you find a place that you can get some help and assistance. All right, take care. Bye.